What if one man became so wealthy from crime that he was once estimated to be among the richest people on earth? A man whose organization supplied much of the world's cocaine during the 1980s. A man who built entire neighborhoods for the poor while simultaneously ordering bombings, kidnappings, and assassinations that left thousands dead. To some, he was a modern-day Robin Hood, and to others, he was one of history's most ruthless criminals. His name was Pablo Escobar, and his story is one of extraordinary wealth, violence, and ultimately downfall. This is the rise and fall of Pablo Escobar. Pablo Escobar was born on December 1st, 1949, in a small town in Colombia and grew up in nearby Medellin. His father was a farmer and his mother was a schoolteacher. By most accounts, Escobar's childhood was modest rather than wealthy. Friends later recalled that even as a teenager, he talked openly about wanting to become rich. As a young man, he became involved in petty crime. Reports from that period describe him participating in activities such as selling contraband goods, stealing cars, and other illegal ventures, though some stories about his early years have been difficult to verify. Whatever the exact details, by the early 1970s, Escobar had found the opportunity that would change his life and Colombia's future: cocaine. Demand for cocaine in the United States was growing rapidly. The profits were unlike anything most criminals had ever seen. Escobar recognized that the real money wasn't in producing cocaine, it was in transporting it on a massive scale. Working with other drug traffickers, he helped build what became known as the Medellin Cartel. The organization developed sophisticated smuggling routes using aircraft, boats, and hidden compartments to move cocaine from South America into the United States. At its peak, U.S. authorities estimated that the cartel supplied a large share of the cocaine entering the country. The profits were staggering. Escobar's wealth became the subject of legend. The cartel reportedly earned tens of millions of dollars every day. Cash was stored in warehouses, hidden underground, and buried in fields. According to former associates, so much money was kept in cash that large amounts were lost each year due to moisture, mold, and rodents. In 1989, Forbes magazine listed Escobar among the world's billionaires. His fortune was estimated in billions of dollars, and he was among the world's elite. However, Escobar's power rested on more than money. He became infamous for a strategy summed up in a phrase that entered history: silver or lead. In other words, accept a bribe or face violence. Police officers, judges, politicians, journalists, anyone who stood in the cartel's way could be offered money or threatened with deadly consequences. The campaign of corruption and intimidation weakened public institutions and made it extraordinarily difficult for authorities to challenge the cartel. Escobar also cultivated a public image as a benefactor. He funded housing projects, sports fields, community programs in poor neighborhoods around Medellin, and much more. Many residents viewed him as someone who shared his wealth with those overlooked by the government, and that reputation earned him loyal supporters. At the same time, critics argued that these charitable acts helped him build political influence and shield his criminal enterprise. By the late 1980s, Colombia was facing one of the darkest periods in its modern history. As pressure from the Colombian government and the United States increased, Escobar responded with escalating violence. Bombings struck cities, government officials were assassinated, judges, police officers, presidential candidates, and journalists became targets. Thousands of people lost their lives during the conflict, involving the cartel, security forces, and other armed groups. One of the most shocking attacks came in 1989 when a bomb destroyed Avianca Flight 203 shortly after takeoff. Authorities concluded that the attack was intended to kill a presidential candidate who was believed to be on board, though he was not actually on the flight. Dozens of passengers and crew members were killed. The violence shocked Colombia and drew international condemnation. For many Colombians, daily life became defined by fear and uncertainty. Facing the threat of extradition to the United States, Escobar negotiated an extraordinary deal with the Colombian government. In 1991, he agreed to surrender, but there was a remarkable condition. He would serve his sentence in a prison that he designed himself. Known as La Catedral, the facility resembled a private estate more than a conventional prison. It reportedly included comfortable living quarters, recreational facilities, and space to entertain guests. Authorities later concluded that Escobar continued directing cartel operations from inside the prison. When the government attempted to move him to a standard prison in 1992, he escaped before the transfer could take place, and a national manhunt followed. The search for Escobar became one of the largest manhunts in modern history. Colombian police worked alongside U.S. agencies to locate him. After more than a year on the run, authorities traced a phone call Escobar made to his family. On December 2nd, 1993, one day after his 44th birthday, security forces surrounded a house in Medellin. Escobar attempted to flee across the rooftops. A gunfight followed and he was killed during the operation. Questions have persisted over whether he was shot by police or died by suicide, as some members of his family have claimed. Most official accounts conclude that he was killed by Colombian security forces during the exchange of gunfire. Pablo Escobar left behind a complicated and deeply controversial legacy. His criminal organization generated immense wealth, but it also fueled addiction, corruption, and violence on a massive scale. The cartel's actions contributed to years of instability in Colombia, with lasting effects on communities and institutions. At the same time, some people in neighborhoods where Escobar funded housing and public projects continue to remember him for those acts of generosity. These sharply different perspectives remain part of the debate surrounding his life. Today, Escobar's story continues to inspire books, documentaries, television series, and films, but behind the myths and popular culture is a reality. Thousands of people were killed or harmed during years of violence associated with his organization. His life serves as a reminder that extraordinary wealth built through organized crime often comes at an enormous human cost. If you enjoyed this look at one of history's most iconic and infamous crime identities, be sure to like the video and subscribe for more documentaries on organized crime, world history, and the people who shaped it, for better or for worse. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Also, if you've made it to the end of the video, comment if you think Pablo Escobar was more of a Robin Hood or a villain in Colombia's history.